don't know about you, but like, that's like, you were made for more than to be a part of a big machine that just cranks and never ends. And so,
Hey guys, welcome back to the Skilled Dad podcast. I'm your host today, Bryan Graf. If you're new to the show, thanks for coming and thanks for stopping by to listen. If you are a part of the Skilled Dad Mafia, let's say, thanks for coming back. If my voice sounds new, it's because it is new. Zach felt it in his wisdom that he would trust me with an episode, so we're giving it a shot. I've been working with him behind the scenes with the Skilled Dad for several years now and just trying to help him expand. So today we're going to talk a lot about what guys don't often talk about, which is what's going on the inside. How's your mental health doing? How's your heart doing? How's your emotional side going? A lot of stuff that we don't really stop to see if it's doing okay because we're so busy caring for our family, making sure the cars are running, making sure there's food in the fridge, making sure that the kids got everything they need for sports. I mean, you name it. We got so many things going on that we rarely take a step back to look under the hood of what's going on in our own lives. So today with me, I got an awesome guest. He's a longtime friend of mine. It's David Kroll. He's one of the pastors at Vintage Grace Church in El Dorado Hills, California. He is a director of a program that's being, I'd say, almost released worldwide called Disciples Made Here. And he is starting a new journey that he's taken on himself called Resilient Leadership, where he's coaching men and dads on how to kind of get under the hood of their own stuff and see what's going on. So David's here. He's also a dad. David, why don't you introduce yourself?
dude, Brian, thanks so much, man. So good to be here. Big fan of the show, man. And just fun to have these conversations, man. We've got a 7, 5, and 2-year-old. Basically, it's WrestleMania nonstop. It's kind of what is going on in our household. With the age the boys are, I just have to watch out when I come around a corner. Somebody's jumping off of a couch, coming in for the, behind the back body slam, catch you when you're not looking. And so it's fun, man. 2 boys, the older are the boys, and then our baby girl, Jackson, Xander, and Ava. And so, yeah, man, it's just fun to be here and love these conversations.
That's awesome. Yeah, full house going on over there. I've been there for the chaos of the kid in the middle of trading Pokemons turn right into a wrestling match. Then it's, hey, watch out, the girls are coming through, and then push the boys out of the way, and then right back to a little war going on.
Exactly, man. That's just always what's kind of happening and swirling.
I love it, man. So we were talking the other day and a little bit this morning, this resilient leadership, heavy on your heart, starting to take guys through. You and I have been talking about starting this up, I think, in the next month or so.
Yeah.
So I figured, well, you're going to give me an overview personally. Why don't we do it on the show and hear about it? So what is it? How did you figure it out that this is kind of on your heart and needs to be addressed? And then how did you relay that into kind of this leadership, almost coaching platform?
Yeah, dude. So it comes from a really personal place. It was about 2017. I was young in doing ministry and leadership roles, was taking on a lot, juggling, being a new parent for the first time, trying to basically just keep all the balls in the air, juggle kind of all the things between work and marriage and kids and my own personal life. And had started just to have these experiences where I felt like I was just starting to burn out. Is kind of what started to happen. Literally burned out my own engine of my own car that I was actually driving one day. That kind of has become this like enduring picture in my mind for this. I was driving home 405 North in Orange County, was driving. I'm going about 70, 75 miles per hour. Same period. This was like 2017, 2018. Flying down the freeway, just coming back from a conference, just, was grinding, running, doing kind of all the things. And suddenly just hear this loud boom from the engine. Smoke just starts coming out. I'm like, what the heck happened? Trying to just keep control of the car, pull over to the side of the freeway. And if you've ever had that experience in LA, like that's not where you want to be, is like on the side of a freeway on the 405 North.
They're
Uh,
all parked.
um,
They're all stopped and parked on the freeway anyways. There's too many
yeah,
people down
yeah,
there.
totally, totally. You're either going 5 miles an hour or like 85 miles an hour on the freeway. There's no like in between space. Like you're either parked or it's just people are just driving by crazy, man. So call AAA, call my wife. Hey, babe, I'm stuck on the freeway. And we get somebody to come tow the car out. And I'm talking to the mechanic the next day. And I'm like, what the heck happened, man? Like, what happened to the engine? And he's like, bro, when was the last time you had an oil change in this car? There was no oil in this engine, man. And you just burned out the engine. Like, talk about a like hard dad lesson to learn. I'm like, oh my gosh. But it became kind of this metaphor for me. I was like, I can't remember the last time I had an oil change. I was like, I didn't have time for an oil change because I was just running from thing to thing. And I was trying to juggle all the pieces. Like you said, you're trying to do work and take care of the car. You're trying to make sure there's food on the table. You're trying to accomplish these goals maybe that you want to do. And I just burned out the engine of my actual literal car. But at the same time, I was burning out the engine of my own life and my own heart at the same time. I remember this day I was driving in to work and I just drove by this Jack in the Box. And I was like, man, if I could just go flip burgers and make French fries today, like that sounds incredible. And I think that's kind of the warning signs of burnout. Those are actually the lights on the dashboard to start to pay attention to. And so that kind of led me on a journey, man, in 2017, variety of different stuff. Connected with some different Henry Cloud and John Townsend resources about boundaries and what does internal boundaries kind of look like. Connected with a guy, Alan Fadling. He does a lot of stuff with like unhurried leadership and pace and sustainability. And how do you not just get through the day, but how do you change the oil in the engine of your car, of your life, so that you can do this for 25 years and that thing can keep going at a healthy way. And so a lot of therapy, man, a lot of like different pieces kind of led me into that journey that really, I would say, was a paradigm shift in my life for how I just even think about leadership now, how I think about taking care of my own mental, emotional, spiritual, physical health, and what doing that looks like, how that is not selfish, but that's actually one of the most loving things I can do for my kids and for my wife, Kelsey. And so, yeah, man, that has been kind of what has brought about some of that resilient leadership journey. And that's kind of what I love to do as part of my, part of just for fun, walking with guys in similar positions to just say, hey, let's get under the hood. Let's talk about these things. How leaders burn out all the time. How do we help you still accomplish your goals, but do so with balance and rhythm and rest and sustainability so that you can actually thrive while you're doing what you're doing and not just try to survive. So, yeah, man, that's a little bit about that, but I love it. I love these conversations, man, and it fires me up.
Nice. Yeah, that burnout's real. I mean, I've had
Yeah,
those same experiences with certain jobs where you just look over and you just think, man, life would be so easy if that's all I had
yeah,
to focus on.
yeah,
Or you have the question, why can't there be somebody that just tells me exactly what I have to do so I know what
totally.
I have to do?
Yeah,
Um, and then and I heard this analogy this week, but when you were saying that we kind of have to take care of ourselves so then we can be the best husband and best friend for our wife, be the best dad for our kids.
yeah,
Just that image of so simple of like in an airplane, if there's anything that's going on and the oxygen mask comes down, like you got to put it on first so
yeah.
you can set yourself up to take care of anybody else in your row,
Yes.
your kids, your
Yeah,
wife, whatever. So it's that whole care for yourself first. And I don't think it's selfish to put yourself first because there are definite times when you have to set aside time where you can recharge, regroup, handle any internal problems. So that way you're fully capable of shouldering the problems that maybe are going on in the rest of your family, which is your responsibility as a leader, as a dad, a husband, whatever it may be. Um,
yeah.
h- so what's the resilient leadership looking like right now, today?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's where that conversation even starts, is like, are you breathing oxygen on the airplane? And how much oxygen is actually in that tank or not? And when you can realize that it isn't even being done in a selfish way, because there's a lot of material actually that's out there that's a little bit like, screw everybody else, take care of yourself. And there's like, yeah, I mean, you see a lot of books and a lot of material out there where it's like, it's good to be selfish. It's good to just like kind of give everybody the middle finger and I'm just going to take care of myself. But actually, when you can see that you taking care of your own mental, emotional, spiritual, physical health, that being done out of love for other people, that's where it becomes really powerful. And that's where it becomes then really transformative for others, because suddenly it's like, okay, what do I need to do today to be the best dad possible to my 7, 5, and 2-year-old? To Jackson, Xander, and Ava, that's an incredible amount of output that's going on. So like, okay, I gotta get to the gym. I gotta like spend some time journaling and processing my own emotional world. I've got to think through the details of like, where am I investing my time? Where am I not? I got to work on my boundaries and what I'm saying yes and no to. I need to think through like a plan even for what do I want my life to be all about? What am I good at and gifted at? What am I not? So that I can like love my family so well. Because really what we sometimes miss is that we just recreate who we are in our kids. Like, just the good, bad, and ugly of all of it is just gonna be this osmosis process that's gonna come out from me into their worlds. And so that is a like pretty heavy like responsibility that I've been given, that anybody who's a dad has been given, but it's also like the greatest opportunity. So it really becomes like a stewardship question. It really becomes a question of like, oh my gosh, how do I love them so well? And the best way that I can love them well is to be in a healthy, thriving, spiritually vibrant, emotionally healthy, mentally clear and sharp place in my life, so that I can like love my kids well and walk with them, because I'm just going to recreate who I am. So I think once people can kind of make that connection, they recognize like, you just can't give what you don't have to your kids, to your spouse. And that's where that conversation really starts.
It's like, how do you overflow if your reservoir's dried up?
Come on. Yes.
It's like, just thinking about your analogy of getting under the hood to just do an oil change.
Yeah.
I just think there's so much depth to that, because when we ask, I want somebody to tell me what to do, to show me what to do.
Yeah.
You may only get change the oil in your car.
Yeah.
But the mechanic's not going to tell you how to drive the car, where to drive the car, what to use the car for, anything else. They're just going to tell you, this is how we're going to maintain your car. And then, which is our body, our soul and mind. And then it's up to us to do that effectively and use it the right way. And we may only get told, hey, in life, I just need you to do this, but how you get to this, or how you within this operate, that's up to you.
Yeah.
And then it makes me think of, because we talk about it all the time, that Jesus did that. I mean, he took like daily time to himself, and he carried everybody's problems. And when I'm only looking at my wife and my 3 kids.
And with that, like, you do see Jesus outputted at such a high level. But I think what we don't see is all these, or don't often kind of focus on, is all these things that he did to make sure that that reservoir was filled. That like, there is going to be this inflow and outflow. We live up here in Eldorado Hills, right next to Folsom Lake. And so it is this perfect picture for that, of like, we've just had this great rainy winter season. I mean, it was pounding down rain yesterday. And it's like, okay, this is great that it is filling up the lake, and the rivers are flowing down from Tahoe and the Sierra Nevadas, because that reservoir is also going to be emptied out in the next few months over the summer. And it's going to flow down, and it's going to flow all the way down to the bay, man. And there's going to be the outflow of it. And it has to happen. If there's only the input, and it just becomes a lake that with no outflow, it really, it starts to become full of lots of just different fungus and gross materials, and like a bog. It kind of starts to become just this pond scum because there's no water that's moving. You don't want that. But then if you just empty out, and we've had those dry summers where the lake gets too low and nobody can use it, that also isn't helpful. And so it really is this balance between input happening into the reservoir so that the water can flow out, so that there can be real output. And that's what I think we don't always see with Jesus, is just the amount of times it says he often withdrew to lonely places to be alone with the Father. I mean, I think even part of what was going on with Jesus and the disciples is just that he had comrades that he is walking to. I mean, Jesus is fully God, but fully man, that he's got these brothers that are with him in this journey. Oftentimes so lost and all over the place as well, but they're in that boat together. They're churning and walking together in this. And so just paying attention to, okay, what is this input that is happening in my life, so that I can actually output at a high level, and just paying attention to what's going on there with the reservoir.
Yeah, and that whole idea of that comrade, that male bonding community, essentially what we're trying to do with this podcast. I mean, it's a good reminder, if this is all the male camaraderie and knowledge you're getting as your input, well, reach out to us, and if you have questions and stuff, I mean, you can get any of that info from the SkilledDad website. To shoot us a contact or an email with any questions. It's really clear to see that it can't all be just input. It can't all be just output. There's got to be this balance of, okay, I've done all this research or podcast listening or whatever it is on how to be a better husband, a better dad, better leader, better whatever. Well, now it's time to put it into practice. So how do you find that balance? Because I don't think it always has to be as heavy of input as the same amount of output. It may be a little input and you gain a ton of output from it. It may be a lot of input that only leads to a little bit of output. So where do you find that balance? And when would you say, just hammering you with questions, but when would you also say that, what are the signs to recognize, oh, my reservoir is empty? Oh, my reservoir is full. I haven't been pouring anything out.
Yeah, dude, no, so such great questions, man. I think in terms of finding that balance, you're going to want to find a place where there's just this ebb and flow of sustainability, to where there's just this ebb and flow of like, man, I am outputting, but I have a plan for how that input is going to happen. Because the reality is you're gonna input no matter what. The question is just, are you going to input in a healthy way, or are you going to input in an unhealthy way? Like, you are wired to find restorative resets of some type. Some aren't actually restorative. Like, so you are wired to reset. It's just going to be like, okay, did I actually Sabbath? Did I actually go spend time with people, with brothers that refill me up? Did I go do something that I love and it actually just like re-energized me? Or did I look for all those certain things in porn or alcohol, or let me just dissociate and just like check out on Instagram or sports, or I just went and I bought a bunch of different stuff because I'm looking for that re-energizing. So like, you are like, God has wired us for Sabbath rest. Like, he's wired us to say, like, there's supposed to be this 6 days of output. There's meant to be this moment of restoration and restore and let the whole thing breathe. And like, the thing is our world is just full of counterfeit rest. It's full of counterfeit resets. God's actually designed you for something that actually does re-energize you, something that does reconnect you with these different tasks and opportunities that he's given you to steward and work the land, work your job, take care of your family. Like, he's wired us for that. So I think it is recognizing that it's going to happen no matter what. How do I actually just be really intentional and have that right kind of rhythm and flow? I love the like 6 days of output, 1 day of rest and input. I think that same kind of concept happens daily. There's actually this daily rest that has to happen as we're walking with a certain level of output. And then I think there's got to be a reset morning, even in the morning or the evening. Maybe your schedule's really wide open. You could find that midday, but like, there has to be these different reset moments so that you can keep it at a sustainable level. So I think there's a place there that you find, like, the best way that I've found to put it is like you kind of just find your like momentum center or your thriving center. And it's a place of, I think, energy, a place of like clarity, a place of like a sense of like, I know what I got, how God's made me. I know what I'm called to do and what I want to do. And I'm able to do this in this like sustainable way. And it feels like, okay, my work world is healthy. It's not nothing's going on there, but it's also not like I'm a workaholic and it's not crushing me. There's a balance there. Okay, my family relationships are like in a healthy, steady rhythm. Like, well, I'm on this journey with my spouse. I'm on this journey with my kids and we're growing there. Okay, what's going on in my own heart and life? Like, I'm growing spiritually and I have this like spiritual vibrancy with Jesus. Like, I think there's this thriving momentum kind of center when some of this stuff comes together. That is a place of balance that you can find, that you can live in, that looks like these work, rest, restorative kind of rhythms. There's a garden-esque nature to this that we can live our lives in. And the crazy thing that happens is that we separate these conversations actually from like your spiritual life. Is I think it's like, okay, I'm going to go tap into like self-help resources, or I'm going to tap into some sort of like spiritual like relationship with Jesus resources. And I think these conversations are truly the crux of it, of what's underneath that hood. And they're actually all about what does this mean to live and walk and thrive in the kingdom. So I think it starts with finding kind of just what is that sustainable balance that you feel like I'm thriving here in these different places. That I think ends up being the goal. And I forgot your second question, bro. I'm sorry on that.
That's okay. There's just so many more, like, and maybe you answer it as you go through your resilient leadership teaching and techniques. The question I want to ask, but it would probably take much of this episode, is just the right ways to Sabbath and what that means to just give yourself rest so you refuel in it. So it's not just picking up your phone or sitting on a computer or zoning out on TV. What's the right way to Sabbath to where you get refilled? Because I think if you do it right, thinking if I could do that right, then I wouldn't just be really refilling myself, but my day of rest could also refill my wife's cup, my kids' cups. Because if I'm showing them, hey, they're a priority, but Sabbath is like, we're unplugging. We're going to go do a family day. Not even going to think about work, not going to think about the stressors. We're going to leave those for Monday. And if I can figure out as the leader of my family how to just do that right, whether you believe in God or not, you figure out the right way to just pause from all the business of life to take on what you love, which hopefully is your family. Then you can refill all their cups too. And dude, I feel like we could do a whole episode of that, but is that addressed in your course? And what does the beginning of this look like? I know when we talked, there's a bunch of what questions that you had for a dad to answer, or a guy, or maybe, I don't know, even a female who's stepping into some leadership role. What were those what questions, and how do you hammer home kind of where you're going to navigate this entire leadership direction? Because I'm sure it's different for person to person, and you're going to have difference of introverts, extroverts, because like you can run at probably like 110 octane all day long, where like, dude, if I did that all day, every day, I'd be burned out by Wednesday, and David can go till Saturday.
Nah, dude, no. Dude, bro, to just touch on what you were saying about Sabbath and rest as a like act of resistance in our culture is what is so needed in a over digitized, over hyper connected, hyper consumeristic, materialistic like world. Like we're living in this culture that it's like that says that the good life is to get on this hamster wheel and just run and never stop. Bro, I don't want to be a hamster, man. Like, I don't know about you, but like, that's like, you are made for more than to be a part of a big machine that just cranks and never ends. And so Sabbath actually is this moment that you say, I'm going to get off this hamster wheel. I'm going to get out of just this machine. I don't need anything more than what I have right now. I don't need more money. I don't need more food. I don't need more information. I don't need more of anything right now. I can actually rest and just be. And it reconnects you back to something about who God has originally made for you to be. Not just a consumer, not someone that's just producing, someone who's an identity as a child of God that's loved and made in his image. That's the core of your identity, of who you are made to be. And so Sabbath is a moment of resistance. It's a moment of reclaiming that. And that is, I think, why it is so powerful. And so that's where with like the resistant leadership or the resilient leadership uh, coaching is, it's really, I think it's most effective just to start with kind of a few questions of, okay, what's just going on? I like to use, it's a really simple coaching tool called the Wheel of Life, where you're really just looking at 8 different categories in your life. And it's like, okay, just on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you feel like that's at? Is it a 5? Is it a 7? Is it a 1? Is it an 8 or 9? Like, where's that at? And just kind of looking at each of these different areas of life, what intuitively happens is we want all of those things to be a 10, but actually that's not the goal. That's just impossible. Like, it's impossible for every area of life to be at a 10, because they all pull on each other. Dude, if you're in a season where you're giving and devoting yourself to your kids, that is going to pull from resources in other areas of your life. And so it's less about making them all a 10. It's more about understanding, where am I at in the story of my life that God has for me in this season, this moment, in this time, and where is just a healthy place for each of those to be. So I like to start with that of just, hey, what's actually going on? Then doing a little bit of like a values assessment of just, what do you want this to even be? Where do you actually want to spend your time? If you could create like your ideal week, what would that week look like? Like, so we just kind of have some different conversations of that, of like, hey, what would just those rhythms be? What's the ideal amount that you want to work? What's the ideal rhythm with your kids? What's an ideal rhythm with your spouse? And so even just dreaming a little bit about that, because I think that often reveals what's in somebody's heart and what they would hope for, that a lot of times you get stuck in a system and it can kind of like squash a lot of that. So I love that, because it really becomes something that opens up a lot of like, what's just actually the dreams that are there that God's put in your heart and life? What do you want that to be? And then I do a little bit of boundaries inventory of, okay, what's it like for you to say no to certain things? What's it like to you to say yes to certain things? Because that's usually determining what these pieces are going to shape out in your life. That's a lot of the Henry Cloud, John Townsend stuff. I love a lot of their material on boundaries. And so that's looking at like a lot of like, okay, what is this going to look like? But a lot of boundaries isn't just your schedule. It's connected to some deep stuff in your heart about people pleasing or anxiety or fear or insecurity. And so that kind of leads into further under the hood conversation. So I think those are some good, just like assessment questions to even just start with, of like, okay, where am I? What would I hope for? What would this take to make one small change this week to step in a direction that I want to go?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think many people know that the saying no to things and saying yes to things is so important, because that answer means you're usually giving the opposite somewhere else in life. So if you say yes to something, well, then you're saying no to another thing. Maybe that's a no to time with family, or maybe it's sacrificing your personal time, your own gym time, because you said yes to whatever. And that could be a good thing. You could be saying yes to something good, but it's going to mean something else has to come off of the to-do list. And then the same, if you say no to things, well, eventually you're going to hopefully say yes to something.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
you may be missing out on where you need to be in the moment, because you are holding too tightly and selfishly onto your time, when maybe it's like you should have a window of in a day where you give, this is my giving time, and then after that's, nope, I need my like recharge time, dinner. I mean, I think you're a guy who's, when you're home for dinner, then the phone's off and put away.
Totally, bro. Yep.
You can't be like, I can't get a hold of you. Nobody get a hold of you after a certain time. And that's awesome. I'm trying to get to that point.
Yeah.
So with doing this resilient leadership stuff, that's kind of been something you've been newly on in your brain since roughly 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
You've seen it impact your own life as you implement the tools of this course that you give to other people. How have you seen it affect your life so far?
Dude, that's a great question, man. I partially what I learned in my own life was that I want to just stay in conversations about these types of things because I need it just in my own heart and life. Just as much as I'm wanting to come and walk alongside with others, something happens in that space when you're like, all right, pause. Let's pull over the car before the engine burns out. Let's pop open that hood. Let's take a look at these spark plugs, man. Let's take a look at these oil. Let's take a look at the engine. All right, let's change out that tube. Like, let's do some stuff here because I think as I'm thinking about those things, I've seen that be just such a game changer in who I am as a husband and completely in who I am as a dad. What it does is it capacity builds. Like that's what some of these conversations do is they change the capacity of the car to either change speeds or change lanes or be able to swerve and navigate as you need to. And like when you are walking kids and when you are walking and parenting, you have to change speeds a lot. You have to be able to navigate and move and swerve and change and not lose control. And like, I mean, it is a high level, driver's test that you are doing. And sometimes it feels like you're driving a Ferrari. Sometimes it feels like you're driving a Prius. And like, you're just like, you're in these different modes and roles and capacities. So I think for me, I've just learned I got to just stay in some of these conversations and reflections and growing in these areas in my own life so that I can be the dad that I want to be and be the husband that I want to be as I continue to stay in it. And then it's just so cool to see. I mean, there's nothing better, I think, than seeing the impact that starts to happen with other guys, like other dads, other people. You're having that conversation, you're getting under the hood. And it changes the course of their marriage. It changes the course of who they are as a dad in their work world, the decisions they start to make. And so, yeah, man, that's fun. And ultimately for me, like that all overlaps with just who are we as disciples? Who are we in the kingdom of God? And this is about garden living. This is about kingdom living. This is about recognizing our identity as God's child, but then really taking ownership of the resources, the time, the talent, the treasure he's given us, the gifting that he's given us, the decisions that we can make. A lot of times I think we don't wrestle with some of that stuff is because we're trying to avoid taking responsibility for it. It is easier to think of myself as a victim of the system, of the process, of of whatever it is I'm trying to think that I'm the victim of. And some of this says, okay, no, you have ownership over these things. God's actually appropriately given you responsibility to steward it for his glory, for his kingdom, for the sake of your family, for the sake of your spouse. Like that, there's an ownership piece there to start to wrestle with. Okay, how do I do this and how do I walk through this? But I just need it, man, for my own heart and life. And so I just love staying in it because I'm just trying to stay the course too on those things. And every single day is a battle, man. Like it is a fight. It is a war zone that you're in. And especially I think the cultural climate that we are in, maybe 50, 75 years ago, you were in a space where there were some cultural structures that helped you actually live into this stuff. Now everything's going to press against you. Like it is a battle. Like you are swimming upstream to fight to be the type of dad, the type of husband, the type of son of him that he wants us to be. Like it's an uphill swim. It's upstream swim every single day that you have to really, I think, devote yourself to because you're facing a lot of strong pressure against it each and every day.
Yeah, I would definitely agree that taking that day of rest or refuel, stopping at the gas station, let's say,
Yeah.
so you can keep going, is definitely counter to the culture today. It's all I gotta grind, I gotta hustle, I gotta do this side job on top of my main job because I
Totally.
for that. What I find interesting is, and maybe it's just me. I don't think I'm alone though in this. When I am going hard in the paint and I'm just work, trying to make money, trying to take care of my family, and then also trying to achieve my goals, and I don't give myself a break. When I look out the window and I see my neighbor and he's on his bike riding around the neighborhood with his son,
Yeah.
I'm more jealous in that moment of that dad than any guy who's got a mansion or a Lamborghini or
Totally.
I just sit back and think, I just want to do that, right? I want to figure out how to stop what I'm doing in this moment so I can go jump on a bike with my kids or my brother-in-law. He and I talk about just how hard it is with work and trying to be successful. And when success is just measured in a monetary value.
Uh,
And and I tell him, well, you know, from my point of view, you have found a way, though you don't make a ton of money, to take this day, and it's usually, I think, a Friday off.
yeah.
That's 100% family time. I, 2 years ago, was never at that point. And so, though he would complain or complain, maybe not the right word, but when he would be kind of disappointed with the amount of money he would be bringing in and how just, just that little bit more would help him help his
Mhm.
family. I told him, I'm jealous of all the time you've been able to find to give to your family because I haven't been able to find that yet.
Yeah. 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 And all of that comes down to what is the value of something? How do I assess how valuable something is? Because is the Lamborghini more valuable or is that bike ride more valuable? And I think under the hood, when you get to those places of actually like, no, I actually really do care more about that bike ride. And now let me start to structure and build my life around those bike ride moments. And now let me run with other people who are helping me understand and reinforce and really believe truly, no, that bike ride is the moment that I care the most about. That's where there's clarity. That's where there's momentum. That's where there's energy. And it's like, oh yeah. So now how do I actually start to structure and build my life around that bike ride moment? And that bike ride moment only happens when you've been faithful at work and you've been faithful to these other places, but you haven't let that control you. You haven't let that dominate you. You're in it for a bigger, higher reason and a calling. And there's a alignment there with I'm doing this because I want to love and be with my family so that I can love and be with my wife well, so that I can like thrive and live in the fullness, the goodness, the abundance of the kingdom of God. That then is a progression that is a beautiful journey to take. Um, and you can, I think, enjoy the fullness of that bike ride, like with your kid, and no, that's better than a Lamborghini, which it is.
But yeah, I think for me, 20s to early 30s, it was how do I work as hard as I can? I'll
Yeah.
sacrifice anything, make as much money as I can. I didn't ever make a ton of money, but I had a job that I was having a ton of fun at. But then it was with probably my injury that retired me from law enforcement and me sitting in just my thoughts for a good 2 years that everything just inverted. And now it's okay, when I go back to work, well, my time is really valuable. So
Mhm.
and it was another friend of mine who said, well, you better have a number on what you'd have to get paid to give up your time. If you're claiming your time is now
Come on.
valuable, well, what's your number that you're willing to give that up? And if that's not reached, well, don't give in to that because then you're devaluing your time, which my kids are now getting to an age where they're understanding things. So I might go, I'm going to look at it as a sacrifice. They may look at it as a devaluing of, oh, we were
Yeah.
so valued at one point. Well, now for just this little bit, to have a little bit of extra toys or something. My son doesn't care about the toys I have or the car I
Totally.
drive. He wants to be in it with me, going and doing something with me. Same with my daughters. They want me to take them on a daddy-daughter date, not say I can't afford it because I bought this awesome car to drive you to this
Yeah.
date that I can't afford.
Yeah,
So yeah,
dude. That's so
what's that
good.
balance at?
Yeah, that's so good, man, because I think then what you're doing is you are right sizing like what actually is the cost of this and what actually is the amount that I'm gaining and receiving from this for my time, which is I think the most valuable thing. that we have is actually the gift of life that God has given us, the gift of time, and where we put that time, thinking through that, processing that, continuing to reflect and cultivate that, is something about actually just taking ownership and responsibility for it so that you can put it where you want to, that you can be involved with where you actually want to, and ultimately what will matter at the end of the day. Um, and that those things are aligned is like, yeah, I like thinking about that in a monetary way of like, how much is this actually worth? How much is this actually costing me?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, time, it's one of those things you spend, but you can never earn. But I do think if you invest time correctly, you may not get to see the return on that investment, but after you're gone, your son can invest the time that you showed him how to invest with his son. And then that investment can just explode. You may not be there in the explosion, which is fine, but if you do it right, there's going to be a return on the investment. It just may not be to you.
But yeah, well, and like, I, and I think I think it will be to you even in the experience as you walk through it. Like, I just have talked to so many people. I feel like this is like the main thing people tell me, and I understand their hearts as a dad, as a young dad. This is the main thing people tell me, but I understand their hearts, but it also breaks my heart a little bit because they'll come in and be like, "Oh my gosh, it just goes so fast. Oh my gosh, it just flies by so fast," and it does. But then a lot of times, what older men will even share with me is they're like, "I missed it." Like they're like, "I wish I wouldn't have missed it. I wish I wouldn't have been just only devoted to my job or distracted by my golf game." If that's actually something that's driving you away from your kids or whatever it is. And I think there's an opportunity not to miss it. And I get that there's different time eras and generations and opportunities now. I think the word that, like, for our generation is like, just don't miss it. Like, don't miss this moment. You don't have to miss the moment. There is an ample amount, I think, of treasured moments to be present, to put away your phone at 6 p.m. and say, that's my digital boundary. That's my line that I have drawn. And like, all right, it's just done. Like, I'm here to be present with my kids, with my wife, like to be present even with your own heart and that journey, and to soak up the goodness of those moments, and that there is a way that you don't have to miss it. You don't have to look back in regret and say, I wish I, would have changed around my priorities and my values there. But first that has to happen with you. That value alignment has to happen in your own heart and life so that then you can go and implement that into other areas. And so, but yeah, I think there's another way that is possible.
Yeah. That's that time you need for yourself
Mhm.
to make that internal change so that you can then overflow into
Yeah.
the ones you care about. Um, how is this? Well, how have you seen this really explode, or do you have a story of how this has really helped somebody when you've helped them recognize? I think that's what you mainly do is you're just asking questions to help me or that other person recognize the areas that one they want to improve, and then two, if this is what you want to improve, well, now let's recognize what you have to get rid of or what you're saying yes to that's making you say no to what you want.
Yeah, yeah. There was a guy that we were walking with through just some of this material, and it was about to be his wife's 40th birthday, and he was in a place with work where work was like requiring a ton of him in this season. I mean, he was doing the like, all right, I'm doing the normal 8 to 5, 9 to 5 during the day, but then I go home and I'm with the kids, and then I'm coming back and I'm hitting like 8:30 p.m. to midnight, 1 a.m. in the office. Like that was kind of what his job was requiring of him. And it was his wife's 40th birthday that was coming up. And he's like, I want to do like 40 things in the month of November to celebrate her birthday. Her birthday was in November. I was like, 40 things in this month. He's like, I want to do trips. I want to do gifts. I want to do special dates. I want to do special. Like he had this vision for what he wanted to do. And it was really fun because of the timing that we had kind of started walking with him through some of his like resilient leadership journey stuff. Is that right? It was kind of hitting in the middle of the journey. And I was talking with him and I was like, all right, Constantine, like you're set up now to go do this. with your wife and what you want to do. But it is going to require all the values and the skill sets that we've been talking about. Like, you just never love anybody on accident. You never spend your time where you want to spend your time on accident. Like, when you are not intentional about those things, dude, I become the worst version of myself. Like, you just don't ever accidentally end up doing something awesome for your wife or becoming that person that you want to become. Like, you accidentally end up spending several hours, check it out, ESPN or whatever your thing is, like that is going to be the thing that kind of pulls you in. So it's like, there was going to have to be this discipline and value and priority for him. But it was super cool to walk with him in that month, because one of the big pieces that we had conversation about is like, all right, dude, what does this look like for you to start to change your work world? And there was a few bosses that he had to push back against, to say no to say like, okay, hey, I gotta be done this. And if you want me to hit this project, I need it a month earlier than just like week of, because that was a lot of like the mismanagement. He's inheriting other people's lack of responsibility and lack of them setting him up for success. But it was the boundaries conversation. He was able to push back against some of those different factors. And he was even able to then like manage his own time and his own energy at a different points in his day to set himself up for success. And it was super cool to see him go do these special trips, these special gifts, these special dinners. I mean, 40 things in 1 month is a lot to celebrate her 40th birthday. But we had a conversation about it where he's like, you know what? He's like, my work world is like a Honda Accord, but I've been treating it like a Tesla. And my wife and my kids are the Tesla, and I've been treating them like the Honda Accord. And for him to make that flip was super cool. And he's like, I want to give the time and energy to where the value is. It's the dad with the bike ride, like you were saying. He's like, that's what I love. That's what I care about. So I still got to go attend to that Honda Accord. Like, I mean, you can't pretend that that's not there. I got to go attend to that. But the thing with the real treasure and value that I have is in making this the best, birthday celebration, 40th for my wife. And so that was just super cool to see, dude, like that real fruit and impact in his life. And it's changing the trajectory of his whole family's world. He's got 3 daughters, their experience of who he is as a dad, as he balances out all those different things. There's fruit there that will ripple out for generations, man. And that's what's just really cool to see when you see those moments.
Yeah. Unless you've seen something like this happen, I don't think you can recognize it. So what I'm talking about is a friend of mine who I worked with, he died on the job. And it was, impactful to our community within the agency I worked for. And it didn't take us very long. I mean, we all went to work the next day, and the machine was still greased. It was still moving. It took a while to recover emotionally, but once we were kind of recovered and could share the stories and we missed him, we were back operating fine.
Yeah.
New guy getting hired and picked up. So you just know, like, I'm just saying this because you're replaceable at work. No matter how valued of an employee you are, you're replaceable. Where he's not is with his family, who to this day is still suffering. His wife, his kids, he doesn't get to be there. He's not replaceable in that moment.
Yeah.
You have to really understand, if we're burying ourselves in our job and in work and always saying yes to that, well, then we're saying no to our family.
Yeah.
I had a friend about a year ago share a story with me that I wish I heard when I was 20, just to a real career. He recently was having a conversation with a guy he worked with. They're about the same age, but the guy he worked with was, I think, 2 supervisors ahead of him. He still technically wasn't a supervisor. He was just a senior employee. And almost maybe the guy thought he was giving a pep talk and a little bit of like, maybe I could whoop you into shape to work harder. And he said, hey, man, if you would have just put in more, you could be where I am. And he looked at him, and it was in his, I think technically he was a boss. He just looked at him and said, hey, I decided a long time ago when I started, I could give you the best of me and my family crumbs, or I could give you crumbs and my family the best of me. And that day when I got hired, I decided to give you crumbs, and I'm
Yeah.
fine with anybody who could say that.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think it really does come down to that, like, what do I value? What matters most? And I'm hopeful for people, like, to be able to, like, work well. Like, I totally get, like, there's gonna be, like, really crummy work environments that probably you need to just give some crumbs to, because it's it's toxic, it's dysfunctional, like, it will eat you alive. I think there can be such a push to say, how do I find a workspace that I'm in a sweet spot? Like, a sweet spot is just like, what are you good at? Where's their opportunity and what are you passionate about? Like, when those three things overlap, like, that's kind of when we're doing even some of this coaching. We're talking through, like, where do you want to thrive? It's like, okay, who's God made you to be? Ton of different, like, resources for that. Like, be on a journey of awareness. Awareness always just creates options in your life. It creates options for choices, for you. What do you want to invest your time in? What do you not? Who has God made you to be? Who are you not? Like, where do you want to invest that? So, like, be on that awareness journey. So, like, know your gifting, know what you actually care the most about. And then just pay attention to, where's their opportunity? Where is there a field to work? And I think a work world can be a place of health. And you're like, sweet, I'm thriving in my work world, but this is then fueling me to be the best dad possible, to be the best husband possible, to be the best friend and brother possible. Like, that then is something that, when those align, you kind of get a cohesion there. You get into that rhythm, you get into that sweet spot. You live at a place of momentum and energy, because you've done that hard work. I mean, a lot of this is about having the courage to look under the hood,
Yeah.
and do the work that's necessary for those seeds to be planted and start to grow.
Yeah, and before we wrap up, I think it's important to know for maybe some of these. I mean, I would still consider myself and you a young dad, but for guys in our spot, maybe even a little older and younger, that it's not. This isn't something that happens overnight. You don't just. I mean, very
Totally.
few stumble into a field that they love. They love the work, and they can easily balance this. There's a lot. You may go into a job thinking, "I'm going to love this," and realize you hate it. But you can grab tools to add to your tool belt from every job as you just walk up this staircase
Mhm.
life. See, where am I going to find the best spot for my time, my treasure, and my talent? And along the way, you may realize what your talents are. You may rediscover what your treasures are, and you may have jobs that really help you understand what time you value most. You
Yeah,
don't just
totally.
you don't just graduate college and then know exactly what you want to do and how you're going to spend your time. It comes with it comes with experience, the school of hard knocks, and it comes with being able to examine your life and look for not just yourself and doing self-assessment under the hood, but looking for guys, uh, therapists, guys like David, who are helping you ask the right questions to get the answers to help you really figure out, is this one of my treasures? Is this where I want to spend my time? And am I actually talented enough in this to really continue, or is this just something I need to, okay, I need to leave where I am and go seek something that is going to hit on all three of these better?
Yeah, and all of this is about just having a growth mindset. Like, just a growth mindset about your whole life of this. How am I learning? How am I growing? The journey of that is going to be hundreds of little pivots along the way. Hundreds of little pivots of, like, well, I just totally blew that with my kids. Okay, how do I do that differently next time? Blew that with my wife. How do I do that differently? Okay, work is not where I want it to be. How do I make a little pivot there? And I think it's people who can have a growth mindset, people who can have a resiliency to learn and grow and change and make those decisions. Those are the people that you see that are thriving. That getting older is not this bad thing. It's actually this place of, like, freedom. Like, as you get older, you actually have learned the most, you've grown the most. If you're actually having a growth mindset, you've, like, continued on this journey and you're like, oh my gosh, I am in such a better, healthier, different version of myself than I was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. and life becomes more and more abundant in that place. And so it is just having, I think, that type of mindset, having those type of adjustments, and surrounding yourself with people that'll help you do that. Like everybody needs an expert in their life, everybody needs a guide, and then everybody just needs like a comrade, like somebody that's just going to be in there with you. So it's like, who's that sage, that expert that you can just learn from? Who's the guide, the mentor, the person that is like a few years ahead of you, that is the once a month breakfast, that's the once a month coffee or whatever, just the like the rhythm of like, I'm just learning, you're kind of helping me navigate this. And then who's just that comrade, that person that's in that trench with you, that is walking with you on a day-to-day level. And so those type of pieces and those people in your life with that mindset, I mean, I think just God does incredible things that leads to just big changes and can change the whole trajectory of your life and your family's life as well.
Yeah, man, that's a good place to end on. So as you listen to this episode, try and think who's your sage,
Yeah.
who's your guide,
Yeah.
who's your guide slash maybe teacher, and then who are you in the foxhole with?
Mhm.
So David, if people want to get a hold of you, do you have an email, Instagram, anything like that
Yeah.
to where they can reach out?
Yeah, totally. All of this is under something that's the umbrella is called the Personal Development Lab. So on Instagram, it's just Personal Development Lab. That's just the handle. You can find me on there. I'd love to be in touch, or also just info at the Personal Development Lab .com. Like, just would love to stay in touch from there. We can put that in the show notes as well. So yeah, would love to journey with people. That's my favorite thing to do. Have these kind of conversations that really can transform and change worlds. So
Awesome. Well, guys, if you made it this far, thanks for tuning in this long. Thanks for listening to David. Hopefully you learned something, you took away a nugget. And just this week, in between this episode and maybe the next one, start asking yourself, who's my sage? Who's my guide? And who am I in the foxhole with? And if you can't answer those questions, or you don't know who they are, start looking for them. Start making changes under the hood. And if you need someone to help guide you through specific questions, I mean, we'll have David in the show notes. If you miss it and you can't find it, just reach out to us on SkilledDad. But like I said, thanks for coming, and we'll see you on the next one.
absolutely. Thanks, Brian.